Our original head brewer Jamie said he once had quite a long and heated argument with a guy who insisted that we'd been brewing since the late 1990s, and Jamie was like, I assure you I was in the brew house varnishing the beams in the end of 2011 when the new brew kit was being put in, but he wouldn't have it. 2012 was the first ever brew up here, and the idea came in 2011. But I think our roots are in traditional cask ale, so I think that people see us potentially as being established for longer than we have. But I also think that for a number of reasons we grew very quickly. So the beer is, recognised and seen in a lot of places. So I think sometimes people think that we've been around longer than we have because of all of that. Albeit it is now 13 years, so quite a long time, but not as long as many brewers out there. The whole idea for the brewery came when Steve and Duncan, so Duncan's a farmer here at Church Farm, and Steve is a good friend of his. They were at a village party for the royal wedding of Wills and Kate, and having a few beers, and Duncan was talking about the fact that he needed to diversify the farm, and his dairy herd had gone, and he was looking for ways to fill some of the empty buildings. But he didn't just want to turn it all into offices. He wanted to do something that was sort of true to the nature of the local area and farming. And Steve was listening away and said, well, hang on a minute, you grow barley, don't you? And I own a beers, wines and spirits wholesale, so let's make beer together. You grow the barley, make the beer, and I'll sell it for you. And that combination of Steve's commercial acumen and knowing what beers to make and where to sell them, and Duncan's passion for sustainability, the fact that we grow our own malting barley on site, and are still, to my knowledge, the only UK brewery growing our own regeneratively farmed barley on site to make the beer. It gave us a real foundation. It grew very quickly, and I think for the first year it was just about keeping the business pointed in the right direction. We outgrew our cold store after a few weeks, and I think they hit year 5 on the business plan after 6 months, so it was quite a lot of early growth. So this is the original church farmyard. The brew house is the building down here. It's a 17th century flint barn, and it's a nice centrepiece. The building over here is the original farmhouse, and it dates back a long way. There's large blocks in the bottom half of the house that you can see, and I'm reliably informed they go back to the dissolution of the monasteries and Henry VIII. So from when he destroyed the monastery down at Wilmington Way, the local farmer at the time went past afterwards and thought, they're handy blocks, I'll use those to build my farmhouse. So it does date that building some way back, so there's a real history to this site. And actually, when they were originally applying for all the permissions for the brewery, the main thing that got the permissions through was the fact that there was reference to a brew chamber here at Church Farm in the late 1700s, so brewing has been happening here for a long, long time. We try and have a clear brief with all of our beers that we produce, so whether it's a best bitter, whether it's Old Man, a dark beer, whether it's a lager or a hazy, more hop-forward modern pale, we want all of our beers to be approachable, and that's the brief. So what that means is when we're designing it, we want somebody to be able to approach any Long Man beer and know it'll be true to its style, but it'll be balanced and drinkable. We want people to pick it up and want to drink more than one. And that's sort of what we go for with all our recipe design. Yeah, it's been a big change over the last few years in terms of a big growth in keg for us. So the Helles is our third top selling beer now, behind the Best and Blonde, and the growth of pale ales, both our more modern hop forward Long Man Pale Ale and Crafty Blonde, has been huge. So it's required a lot of investment in new tanks, new equipment. So these tanks here have all been installed in the last 2 years or so there was nothing outside before, and I think it shows the way the market's developing and changing. We grew as a traditional cask brewery, we still are, that's still really important to us. But actually it's about producing a wide range of cask and keg beers, so there's a beer to suit everyone is the idea. So Long Man Best is still our top selling beer. Long Blonde still really important. Rising Giant, Old Man, all part of our core range of cask. But the Helles Lager, our 4% gluten-free lager, our hazy pale ale and crafty blonde are the big growth area for us. Post the COVID lockdown, we really sort of thought about where our business was focused, and for us the right thing to do was to really double down on our local markets. So we've focused in on working with free trade outlets where we can really support our customers and provide the right levels of service. We've pulled out of sort of a lot of the multiples that we were doing beer further afield and really focused on the southeast. So that's driven ultimately by the consumer, and I think there's an expectation from people now that when you walk into a pub you want to see independent beer, whoever it's from. And I think that's really important, and I want to see independent brands, and I think it's just nice to know that when you put some money over a bar, that's going into the pockets of the local community, through wages into the local community, and driving revenues locally. So, we started with 3 beers, Best Bitter, Long Blonde and Sussex Pride, and we now have 8 permanent beers across different package types, and it's still our number one. And I think, for me, it's not easy to find a beer in that style that drinks as easily and as well balanced as Long Man Best. I think ultimately why do people choose it on bars? Because they recognise the Long Man brand, they know the beer is balanced and drinks really well, and they trust it to order it, so I think that's why.
And they think you've been around since the 80s, but actually you're not.
Yeah, exactly that, yeah.